Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of His Turn, Her Turn. Guess what? It's his turn, because Miss Fix is off in occupied Austria, hanging out with the Von Trapp family this week, looking to audition in her role in The Sound of Music. Because of that, she sent Spawn of L Fix, Paul Fix, along to join us up here in the Pacific Northwest, to join us for what has turned into His Turn.
Special edition, of course.
It is a special edition. What brings us here? It's the next new thing that you need to know about. It's the Infiniti QX30. Paul?
Very unique vehicle. Something we haven't really seen before. It's, I think, a perfect harmony between a hatchback and a crossover. And this is the new entry level for Infiniti's lineup.
The thing that's most notable about this, first, I really like the styling of it, and it's the first thing that drew me into the car. When we got here, we're in Seattle, Washington for this, on the Puget Sound, and who'd guess it's raining a little bit, but nevertheless, I saw it for the first time in the flesh. I'd seen pictures of it, and I thought, oh, that's a nice looking vehicle. When you see it for real for the first time, you go, wow. That really turned my eye.
Yeah, I mean, with most cars that look this good, seeing the pictures and seeing it in person is totally different, especially the unique paint that we have here. This is ink blue, and it's metallic that has like a purple tinge to it, which our friends over at the Oyster Shack noticed quite handily.
Yeah, later on, you're going to see some guys that we ran into at the Hama Oyster Shack. In some place out here, and these guys are oyster shuckers. I mean, that's what, when they fill out their tax form at the end of the year, they said, I'm a shucker, and they put that in there, and they came out in mass. There were three of them. The three guys that they just dropped their shucking duties, and they went, oh shucks, look at that.
They ran right out to see the car. But that's, I think, something that Infiniti's doing really well lately. Look at the Q60. Look at the kind of reception that got. Now, that's not even released yet. And it has that same strong styling image that eventually, hopefully, is going to get throughout the whole line of Infiniti.
Well, yeah, and you get that look on the grille. And this is the last of the Infiniti models to get that very signature grille.
Right, so now they all have a similar look, which I think really helps for, cars driving down the street. Oh, that's definitely Infiniti. You can notice them now, which is something you couldn't do before.
Well, let's go ahead and get behind the wheel. We'll take a look at what our thoughts were when we were driving this vehicle, and then later on we'll put a little bow on it and tell you what else we think here from Seattle, Washington. This morning we were able to go out and drive the all-wheel drive version of it, and this afternoon we were in the sport model of the two. In the all-wheel drive vehicle, there's quite a bit of difference in ride height from the standard base entry, if you want to call it that, QX30. The sport model suspension drops it down by 0.6 of an inch. And then when you go to the all-wheel drive version of it, from the base model, it goes up 1.2 inches. So that means you've got almost 2 inches of total ride height difference. And it's instantly noticeable when you get into the sport model versus the all-wheel drive that I drove this morning. The interior look, where you're going to be spending your time in this vehicle, you look around and you say, wow, this is pretty darn impressive. The stitching in the sport model, a flat bottom steering wheel that I love. The instrumentation. The only thing I'm finding a little bit odd is that the speedometer is over on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side of the instrument panel, and I keep looking for the speedo on the right. I guess if you own it, after 2 days, you're going to know exactly where it's at, but it made me go ahead and flip up the digital readout, which you can also get in the center among the different options of information that you can display up there. The controls for the seats, very, very intuitive, up here right where I think God intended them. And we need to take a moment to talk about not only the interior, but how the interior wound up this way. It's got a lot of customer input, is probably the best way that I can put it. I can see where they were listening and then they responded to it before they brought the vehicle to market. gee, what a concept, huh? Actually listen to some customers and do something. It's a pretty impressive car. And you got to remember that this is somebody's first touch. The people that they're looking for with this vehicle is a first touch customer, an entry point into the Infiniti line. So I'm liking this. I'm going to enjoy driving it a bit more. Let's see what Mr. Fix has to say.
I think that this gives Infiniti a really unique place in the market because the prices are incredible. You can get the base model for under $30,000, and you can get the sport and all-wheel drive models with plenty of options under $40,000. They've really hit the nail on the head. They have their place in the market, and they've done a really great job. So the QX30 being at the entry level for the Infiniti lineup, I think is in a really unique place, that it's kind of a hatchback, it's kind of a crossover, it's the perfect middle between the sedans and the SUVs that Infiniti makes, while still having their absolutely wonderful new design language. I think the new headlights and the grille and the really strong body lines are, I think, really indicative of what this sporty and very luxury type brand can bring to the table. I think it's doing it really well, especially with this new vehicle. I have to say I'm very, very, very happy about this new dial that they have down here that has a home button and has applications, so you can go to your phone, you can go to your media, and you can go to your map, and it's easier to control through this knob. And it's also touchscreen, which is brand new for Infiniti's lineup. The suspension is tighter and lower, as Mr. Brian mentioned, and I think that's important for a car like this.
Wow, do I feel old? Don't let me interrupt you there, youngin'.
Well, I think it's important to mention something like that because this is kind of a hatchback and kind of a crossover. Look, in Europe, the base model and the sport versions are Q30s, and the QX30 is the all-wheel drive version. And I think that says really more than anything I can come up with on the spot about the difference between the models. This is a hatchback, and the all-wheel drive version is a crossover. They just happen to be exactly the same in every way except for the way that they drive and their setup.
Here is Green Onion being played by the Paperboard Man. Welcome to the market show. So my band get down. Let me tell you, I get you tap, 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 tap. Got a Pepsi Cola cup to play now. I get down.
Guys, you're seeing this for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking this is like
sexy.
This is like the new car SUV of the future. Yeah. It's not even on the market yet.
It feels like a perfect mix of a car of like an SUV and a car to me.
Yeah.
Like an SUV and a wagon. It's like a sporty SUV.
So now, what kind of transmission does this have?
It's got the new DCT in there. It's got an
7-speed.
7-speed.
Is it a 7-speed dual clutch?
Yeah.
Wow. Now I know Dodge has a lot of 8 speeds in their vehicles, but this is a dual clutch, so that means it engages the next gear before you even get into it, right? God, that's so cool. The lines look like a Nissan, like the new Nissan SUVs, but much more aggressive. I'd grab one of these before one of those any day.
Okay, you want to put a price on it for me?
Yeah, keep in mind it's an Infiniti.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
Like high 40s.
Your partner here was guessing mid-40s. What are you thinking?
I would have to say, I don't know. I would probably say closer to maybe 30, maybe like low 30s.
Okay, well, you get to buy the next round. You, because your partner's right.
Oh, what? It's in the
up-
30s?
Open up under 30,000.
No way, dude.
Fully kitted out under 40,000.
Oh, I love the white. I love that.
And so they have the sport.
Yes, sorry.
we got to get back. We're working.
You're getting yelled at.
I know. We're getting yelled at because the car's too nice.
Okay, give me a dozen oysters.
Okay. Dozen raw.
Yeah,
Nice. Cool. Can we it for you?
that's it.
Alrighty.
All right, so we're rolling along, and we find the Hama Hama Oyster Company, which is not to be confused with the Jackie Gleason Hamana 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 Oyster Company. Totally different operation. But how can you say no to something that looks this good? Now, normally I just mainline these, but they've got this absolutely rocking mignonette with some jalapenos, cilantro, rice wine vinegar, and stuff. I'll see you in a minute. So as you can see, we really both liked it an awful lot from the inside of the car and what the car did. What's your big takeaway from this, Paul?
I gotta say, I don't know. I kind of like everything about it, and that's the problem. Like
It's not a problem. No, I mean that's not a problem.
That's a good thing. It is a good thing.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with style. That's gonna be my choice. Inside and out, style as my big takeaway. It's amazing, absolutely fantastic. They pulled out all the stops, and I think that the engineers, along with the designers, put together something that's really fantastic.
All right. We're going to go with that, and I'm going to go with execution on this. And I don't just mean in what they're doing in building the vehicle. They had a mission in addressing a lower price point to get people into the Infiniti family.
Right.
And by bringing this car in its base model at $29,000 and change, they really accomplished that extremely well. Now, you can bump that up in the 40, low 40 range if you put everything on it that you possibly can imagine. But nevertheless, I think they've really executed extremely well. I think the styling on the car, as you mentioned, the fashion on it is great. From all of the different aspects that they've got, I think they've got a very strong competitor in this C segment.
Oh yeah.
So as it's sprinkling even more, you know, I'm wearing blue and green. You would think that it's for the Seattle Seahawks because we were here. That's their colors.
Hopefully, it's to keep you dry.
Or the Mariners. No, it's not, because a couple of years ago, I wore green here in the Pacific Northwest at Fort Lewis taking basic training, and I'm reminded today why I hated every day of basic training, because it frickin' rained every day. 10 weeks of this stuff. So I'm not surprised that we've got it, but I want to thank you for joining us today and
Of course, it was
being
a
with us
pleasure.
on this special edition. And Al Fix, your mom, will be back with us later on. Please, as you always do, hit that little subscribe button right up here so you can get the rest of our videos that take place. We love your comments. If you put them down here, you'll be able to do that. Mr. Fix will be providing copious notes on the rest of the other stuff.
Yes, sir. And if you like this video, remember to like it, tell your friends about it, tell your family about it.
Tell
follow
your
us.
enemies about it.
Yeah, sure.
Tell anybody. If they got a pulse, we want them watching.
And follow us, of course, on social media. You can find me at PaulFix3, nice and easy, and Mr. Brian.
I tweet at the Paul Bryan, ThePaulBrian, just the way it says right here. So go ahead and do that. So that's it from the Pacific Northwest. Thanks everybody for being with us, and we'll see you from wherever the heck we are the next time here on His Turn, Her Turn.
Bye. No matter where you go in the world, it doesn't matter if you're in New York, Malaga, or Seattle, Washington. There's always going
I'm
to
being
be...
mocked here. I'm being mocked. I will not be mocked.
No, but seriously, there's a lot of traffic.
Now, I know a lot of you think that all the time that Lauren and I, and now with her son Paul, that what we do is, all fine dining, great wines, all 78 Polini Montrachet or Chassagne Montrachet. I want you to know that there's a common man that lives inside Paul Bryant. For every Serrano ham in Malaga, for every prosciutto in Milano, there's gas station gizzards in Open Zipper, Washington. This is an astounding place, and these are really good. Believe it, man. These are great.
Oh, we can get out. Let's get out.
Get out, get out! Get to the choppers!
Get to the chopper! Do it now!
It's very good.